Hello, friends. Welcome back to In My Car. It's great to see you. I hope you're having a great week as it's just starting and a new era is officially underway with the Montreal Canadiens as the Marc Bergevin era of 9.5 years is over. Trevor Timmins with this organization since 2003 in the various capacities of scout, assistant GM, and Paul Wilson, the director of communications for the organization, been here since 2018, all gone in what was a drama-filled weekend, right, where the Montreal Canadiens get cracked in Buffalo. They cracked the Penguins on Saturday. The Scott Mellanby situation de-escalates to the point where he resigns. You knew right then and there that Marc Bergevin was done, not in days or weeks, but in hours, and that's exactly what happened on Sunday, right? And the Montreal Canadiens on Tuesday morning wake up again, coming off another loss, this time at the hands of the Vancouver Canucks in a 2-1 final. So lots to touch on here, I've got my perspective on the next general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, why I don't think it will be Martin Madden Jr., what I think of Jeff Gorton's role, what I think his role ultimately is with the Montreal Canadiens, and what the future has in store for the Habs. So ultimately, what I think a lot of people that are coming from Habs Nation really want to see, they want to cheer for a good team. They want to cheer for a team that's fun to watch, not boring to watch, where you can think of something else to do on a Friday night when the Canadiens are playing the Buffalo Sabres, for example. No, you want a fun team to cheer for. And I'm not talking about the fan that is delusioned, that thinks that, oh man, they're going to win Stanley Cups like the Patriots rang up Super Bowls. There's going to be a dynasty now that Bergevin's gone. No. Nobody's, out to lunch here, in left field. We're talking about realistic goals. Realistic goals being this team having sustained success. Why can't the Montreal Canadiens be the Boston Bruins? Why can't they be like Boston? In a team that, you know what, you can have roster turnover, you can have turmoil at coaching positions, and yet they're still competitive. Yet they draft well, they develop well, they graduate guys to the National Hockey League, and the team still stays competitive. I think that's what level-headed, grounded Canadian fans want to cheer for. And so now that they bring in Jeff Gorton as the VP of hockey operations, they definitely, in my mind anyway, have the right guy in the right position. And so when you look at what the Canadiens can do now that Jeff Gorton is here, to me, like a lot of people, it's a brilliant workaround. It truly is, because now what it does is you have someone that is coming into the organization that has been in the league for almost 30 years. He's worked for 2 teams. This is his 3rd team, and yet he's been in the league for this long, and that he's held various positions throughout organizations, and so he has this track record, he has this composure, and he has a very, very impressive resume from the Bruins down to the Rangers, and now what can he do with the Montreal Canadiens? So right off the hop, I love the hire because I think Geoff Molson hired the best person available at the time. And, some speculation that a lot of teams were looking at Jeff Gorton, who had been removed from his post after he groomed Chris Drury to take over as the GM in New York, that there were teams really high on Gorton. So the Canadiens acted swiftly. And again, I love the fact that they hired the best guy available. And, when we talk about Geoff Molson, there's been so much conversation before Saturday night and what happened there about absentee ownership. And Geoff Molson has to speak. He doesn't care about this team. How can he stay so quiet and not say a word while his team is mired in misery in one of the worst clubs in the NHL? I always maintain that was bullshit. I always told you guys that. And I believe it. And I believe I've been proven correct, with Geoff Molson coming out and having his almost hour-long press conference and addressing the matters and the task at hand. So what do you think he was doing? What did you want to see? You wanted to see a helicopter owner come out and fill the newspaper and the radio with drama, unnecessary drama? No. What he was doing was working quietly behind the scenes, getting his ducks in a row, and ultimately pulling the trigger on firing Marc Bergevin and everybody else and bringing in the start of a new regime. That's what quality owners do. That's what owners that care do. So spare me what you guys wanted with the drama, because you didn't get it, and it was utter nonsense at the time. And so I feel kind of right with how Geoff Molson and the organization handled the dismissal of Marc Bergevin and how they handled their almost hour-long media session yesterday. And so my takeaway was Molson does truly, truly care. And no, it's not about selling as much beer or condos and price per square foot and everything else and making sure constants are back at the Bell Center and Evenko is rolling in profits. Geoff Molson, like a lot of people, is a massive Canadiens fan. And I choose to believe that what's happened this season has hurt his soul. And he also showed a good dose of humility by acknowledging that when he mentioned that he's the president and he doesn't need to create another role because he's the president, well, we knew that was the wrong avenue to take. And he admitted that this is a two-person job. So to me, there's a little bit of humility coming from the ownership group. Now, what's going to happen next? Lots of people are looking at the next general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. Who's that going to be? Obviously, the names out there, we know them. Matthew Darche, Tampa Bay Lightning. Daniel Brière's and another name that is high on the list. And another is Martin Madden Jr., who is the assistant GM with the Anaheim Ducks. So let's go through those guys, okay? So I like Matthew Darche a lot. He's a Ville Saint Laurent guy, represent VSL, what. He's a Francophone. He is educated at McGill University, and he has been with the Tampa Bay Lightning for a few seasons now in the role of assistant general manager. I think he's the odds-on favorite. If I think, you're putting money down, I think you're going to get Matthew Darche as the number one guy on that list. Daniel Brière coming in, also getting a lot of traction in the last 48 or 72 hours. Daniel Brière is an interesting case, right? And I told you guys this on the radio the other day. Not a lot of people were aware of this, but Brière is working his way up the rankings of executive positions in the NHL, and he's working in the East Coast Hockey League with the New York Rangers affiliate. Jeff Gorton knows him. He's been a general manager, assistant hockey ops, so in those high-ranking executive positions, so he's learning on the job, and Jeff Gorton knows Daniel Brière very well. And then there's Martin Madden Jr., the assistant GM of the Anaheim Ducks, and he's been an executive in the National Hockey League for almost 2 decades, a decade and a half, really, 14 years. And the thing about Martin Madden Jr., who would be my pick, because he's a lifer, he's an exec for life, where Brière and Darche, we know their histories as former players and now learning the task of being an executive at the highest level. I don't think it's going to be Martin Madden Jr. And if I were Martin Madden Jr., I wouldn't take the job either, because I believe that Jeff Gorton is the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, and it's Jeff Gorton's task to get this team back on the rails with his vision. So when I think about it that way, why would a guy who's been an assistant general manager, been a lifelong executive, who's, extremely educated, is an engineer, he's a very, very sharp guy. He knows the writing on the wall. He knows the landscape, guys. That, yes, Gortman is the Habs GM, even though it's not his title, but he's going to be the guy tasked with getting this team better in a lot of different areas, as he helped do to Boston and the New York Rangers. Now it's the Canadiens' turn. So I think Martin Madden comes in, and he wants to be his own man. He wants to be his own GM. And working under Gortman, I don't think allows him to fulfill that. I really don't. So it makes sense in my mind that someone like Matt Darche or Daniel Brière comes in, and that there's going to be kind of this grooming period, that Gortman is going to show them the ins and outs of being a general manager at the NHL level, the do's and the don'ts, and the tactics that go with negotiating contracts and everything else that goes with being an NHL general manager. So I'm going to go that it's going to be Matthew Darche as the next general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. An opportunity for Gortman to groom this guy, and an opportunity really for the Canadiens to have their cake and eat it too. They're going to have the good chez nous, who's going to be able to parler en français, while also speaking in English. This is a bilingual position, as Geoff Molson said in his press conference. They want to be able to communicate to their fans around the world, and that means parler en anglais. And Matthew Darche checks all those boxes. Again, another McGill graduate. So yes, very much entrenched in Quebec culture, and so therefore I'm going to go with Matthew Darche as the next general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. But like everybody else, I know that Gortman really is the GM of the Montreal Canadiens. So, and now what's next? Rebuild? Geoff Molson said he's not scared of using that word, but we all know, how do you rebuild when you have Brendan Gallagher's contract? And Brendan Gallagher wants to win more than anything else. Brendan Gallagher's not here for a rebuild. How do you rebuild with Carey Price's contract? How do you do that? The biggest sell isn't going to be asking Carey Price to move or waive his no movement clause. The biggest sell job is convincing another team to take on Price's contract. Even though the Canadiens are going to have to, no, obviously, they're going to have to eat salary, Carey's salary. They're going to have to eat a good chunk of it. But are you going to be able to convince another team Are you going to be able to convince a team that is, and that's the sell. You guys are so close to winning the Stanley Cup, you know what you're missing? You're missing my guy, 31. That's what you're missing. That's going to be the biggest sell job here, is getting that team to say, yes, you're right. We need Carey. Carey is the missing link to get them over the top. And then obviously, if you can, you trade Brendan Gallagher. And obviously, Ben Sherratt will be gone. And you need to maximize your value there. And ultimately, it comes down to putting yourself in the best position possible to get the best draft choice possible. And that means unloading a bunch of contracts. And if that means saying goodbye to Jake Allen, that means saying goodbye to Jake Allen too. So you see where I'm going? That's what you have to do. And the other aspect that we've been talking about for quite some time here is not just the rebuild, but as I've been telling you for a while, if you're seriously going to rebuild, you have to rebuild from the top and work your way down. So I'm glad that's the avenue, the strategy they're taking. Front office rebuild, as I told you a few video entries ago, the rebuild begins with finding a new GM, finding a new head scout, pro scouts, and down the list of executives you go to ultimately it translates to the on-ice product. So clearly, these are the things I've wanted to see, and I'm glad they're being done because I think they're the right decisions to make, as this team desperately needs to get back to being fun, being competitive, winning games, and getting this market excited about the Montreal Canadiens. And my future prediction for the Canadiens, after I told you I think it's going to be Matthew Darche, what I see happening here is that this position of VP of Hockey Ops will run, and Gorton will get this team back on track, and then ultimately that position will be filled by, I think, another Gud-Chez-Nous, the Montreal Canadiens, right? It's the business. It's just the business they're in. This is, I know you people hate hearing it. It's a unique market. And as a result, they need to make sure that the majority of people in Quebec understand what's being said about their favorite hockey team. And they want to hear it in French. I get it. And so that's what I think is happening. And I'm here for it. I like it. And I'm fascinated to see where this team is going to go. I'm fascinated to hear Gorton's philosophies and his plans and how he thinks and how he likes to build hockey teams and the importance of building hockey teams. And remember this, when we talk about Gud-Chez-Nous and French-speaking people coming in and taking positions within the Canadiens organization, remember, there is no salary cap for administrators, for executives. So why not flood it? If you really are dead set on having this team filled with more locals and more French-speaking Canadians and more developing more Francophone hockey players in this province, in the long view, then flood the organization. Bring in Danny Briere, bring in Matthew Darche, bring in Roberto Luongo, create this exciting wave of Francophone players that maybe will get the Francophone population in Quebec jacked for maybe one day they will be able to put on the Saint Flanel and the Bleu Blanc Rouge and play in front of a capacity crowd for an exciting, fun team that will legitimately qualify for the playoffs, that will legitimately get to a Stanley Cup final and maybe legitimately bring home a 25th Stanley Cup. There's no salary cap for your front office. So make it exciting. If you really are dead set on accommodating the majority of people in Quebec, then go out and do it. Go all the way. Go all the way and do it. And I'm here for it. I'll support you. I really will. I really will support you. I want to cheer for Quebec players on the Montreal Canadiens. I really do. So let's make it happen. I'm excited for the new era of the Montreal Canadiens. I hope you guys were excited for the Sean Starr poutine at Poutineville, Vaudreuil, Dorion. Man, it was a banger. I wish it was delicious. I wish it was on the menu as a mainstay every day. It really was like I kid you not, I've always wanted like a sandwich named after me or like a food item on at a restaurant, and it's there all the time in perpetuity. Yeah, I'm going to have the Sean Starr. I want that there forever. So we raised a lot of money. Stupid camera. We raised a lot of money, over 600 toys for 03, and it was just a great time at Poutineville, Vaudreuil, Dorion. And as always, K-Stop Gas Bar and Depanneur, I was there on Sunday. Make sure you gas up, snack up for my NFL action. It is the place to be. Stop paying these other guys, these greedy corporations, all your hard-earned money. You don't need to do that. Shop local, save money, premium fuel at discount prices. And of course, my friends at Gregoire, Chomedey, Nissan, December 1st is tomorrow. You have your winter tires on? You're breaking the law, lawbreaker. If you don't have your winter tires on tomorrow, book your appointment now at ChomedeyNissan.com. You can book your appointment online, a service appointment. You can buy your car online. Unbeatable deals from the best sales staff in Quebec. It's Gregoire, Chomedey, Nissan.